Get ready to learn more about how to bring clarity to complexity. Clara Capano is my guest coming up here quickly, and find out what her story is. What made her want to shift and become someone who has a brilliant heart, but now it's a servant heart. Why does she do this? Where did she get the information from? What were some of the turning points in her life? And as you listen to her about her clarity, might it help you find some clarity in your life and become a better leader, a better mom, a better dad, a better human being? I have a feeling if you listen closely, you'll have a few points where you can take home or take to work and help those around you become even better. Stay tuned. Hello, everyone. This is Greg Aden with Aden Leadership. And, I seem to say this as often as I possibly can, but today, really, I have an honestly wonderful, beautiful, I believe, powerful guest, and I can't wait to get to know her more. I know Claire and I got together once on a brief let's meet, and I believe at the end of our conversation, Claire, we both said let's do this again, and we decided to make it more formal. So, with that, Clara Capano, how are you today?
I am doing fantastic, Greg. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Oh, my pleasure. So you want to, in general, you want to let people, especially women, know it's okay to be who you are and be the most and best version of themselves. And tell us, where does this deep desire to serve women come from?
I think it really just stems out of the fact that this is me and it
Mm,
came from my story. And I think that, we all have a story. And when we start to share those truths, we really unconsciously, liberate others to be able to lean in and realize they can achieve whatever it is they want as well. Growing up as the quintessential overachiever, I was always so hard on myself, thinking I had to do more, I had to do it better. Putting in more hours would then show everybody how successful and wonderful I am. And, finally, I just got to a part of my life where I was battling burnout and looking at myself in the mirror and not recognizing myself, not
mm.
liking myself, and sort of wondering, how did I even get here? And I know that there are so many other people out there feeling and facing the same dynamic. And I was able to get through that and live on the other side. And that's really my passion is I want nobody else out there to be sitting in that pile of tears on the
Mm.
floor, feeling like a failure, feeling empty, lost, confused, and, not knowing who they are anymore.
Beautiful. And I know that's just a small portion of your story, Clara, and I appreciate you being open around sharing it. Outside of yourself, however, when you were younger and when you were growing up and when you were starting to feel pressure, were pressures coming from other sources? And if so, who or where did they come from?
If I could rewind time, it was mostly me and my interpretation of it. Now, granted, I have two very well achieved parents
Mm,
who obviously wanted the best from me and set expectations. At the same time, there were countless times where they always told me and my siblings, do whatever it is that you want to be. If
mm,
you want to be a trash collector, be the best trash collector you can be. It was always just be proud of who you are and be proud of the work that you have. But I think also, and I don't have any findings behind this. This is just my sort of self, self analyzed person here. I'm the youngest of four. And I
okay.
think looking to find my place, for me, it was academics.
Mm,
And for me, I told myself, being that both my parents are academics, it was that's where I'm going to get love. That's where I'm going to have to, thrive in order to be recognized. So I think that need to push myself came more from just my interpretation of that's where I was going to define my place and my worthiness.
Tell us where this deep rooted need for academics and the success in academics came from. Let Share with us the deep rooted need to be successful in academics is what I'm trying to say. And outside of your parents, did you have other role models, aunts, uncles, big older friends, or professors perhaps that said, Clara, you can do better than this?
Yeah, for sure. And that's such a great question. I think again, my need just to strive for excelling in academics just came from my innate need for love. That
Mm,
is what I told myself I needed to do to be loved.
Yeah.
And, so coming home with a great report card, winning an award, all of those things were for me to be like, look, I did it. I did it. And on some level, I loved it because I loved the recognition, and I think part of that, it's that blessing and the curse all wrapped up in one. I love it, and I still push myself. I mean,
Good.
international speaker, I've written books. I don't just have one show, I have to have 2 shows. So
Mm.
I think somewhere it's still inside of me, but I've learned to get less away from making it about me and getting love and putting it more on the impact I'm delivering to others. But I think again, it was my journey to be able to again get that recognition and make my mark and show people that I was worthy. Now, as far as others, there is one teacher who stood out. Well, 2 teachers who stood out for me. One was my history teacher, Mr. Hicks, and he just really empowered so many of us to make learning fun and, always was in our quarter. But I had that one, Mr. Carson. And oh, did I hate him with a
A
passion
passion.
as it was going through. And I remember it was my AP history course, and I was ready to drop it because it was causing me so much stress and anxiety. And I remember sitting down and I was like, even my parents went in. They're like, she's having a nervous breakdown and we can't have her do this. And he sat down and he really sat down and he's like, I do this because I care about you, because I see more inside of you than you see inside of you.
Mm.
And he agreed to change some of the ways that he would open me up and, be a little kinder to me. But I think again, it really made me embrace the idea that sometimes when people come to you and push you, it's not because they dislike you, it's not because they're trying to embarrass you. It's actually coming from a place of love.
Yeah.
Now, maybe they need to package it differently in their messaging, but to again know that and, to also know that we have to do that for others. And, now being a mom myself, I do that with my son. And I tell him, I'm doing this because I know you have more inside of you. And I know when you apply yourself, you're going to be proud of yourself too.
Mm.
So, those were 2 people that really, helped me sort of unlock myself.
Well, you said package, and we'll unpackage a lot of what you just said. But first of all, I want to say, Brooks, if you're listening, you see, when I push you, it's because I love you. And Brooks is my 12-year-old son, and
Yes.
a mini me, and he gives you those looks like, why? Well, you
Oh,
may
yeah.
not understand it today, but I tell
Mhm.
you what, Clara, he is getting it quicker, more quickly than I thought he would. And especially when it's his idea, or it seems to be his idea. Wow.
Mhm.
All we can do is sit there and have our firm hand on their back and show them love. So shout out to Mr. Hicks and Mr. Carson. Thank you for pushing Clara along. And the other thing I wanted to unpack is, when did you start to feel your servant heart growing inside of you? When did you start to recognize that unless you took care of yourself first, there was no possibility that you could actually do anything great for anybody else? And again, hopefully you believe that. I don't know that we've actually agreed on that, but in order to serve someone else, you've got to be in a pretty good place first. So two questions there. When
Mhm.
did you feel your servant heart growing inside of you to want to take care of others? And when did you know that, you know what, I'm at a place right now that I can go out and serve others?
Sure. And it's a 2-part series in the
Yes.
life of Clara when we come with this. I think I was born with a servant heart. I really feel that as a young person, and I remember my father even always saying, I'm raising a social worker here, because I always just again wanted to give. I was always the one that brought the animals home if I found them on the side of the road. I was always, let's go and do all these humanitarian things. And then somewhere, possibly because I grew up in the 80s, and this connection to money sort of
Mm.
came, and I love money. And I decided that, I'm not going to make much money being a social worker. And I sort of went to the complete other side.
Okay.
And then it became again chasing after the dollar and getting the big title and having the dream of the the corporate office on the 42nd floor of New York City, where I was a corporate attorney and
Mm,
ruling the world and all of those things. And that
congratulations.
kind of then went into my early career and led ultimately to the demise of old Clara and the creation of the new Clara,
Wow.
the better version of Clara, the 5.0 version of Clara, I will say. And it was really in my mid 30s. And that's when I had my big moment of breakdown where, I really became that person where I didn't like who I was. And all these things that I had accomplished, I still felt very empty. I
Yeah.
felt completely lost and disconnected. I did not have quality relationships. And most of all, I really was not taking care of myself. And so it was in that moment that I started to again rebuild and find a way where I could bring these things together. And that's where I think the new servant heart and the stronger servant heart came into play. And I found that I actually can make great money by serving. And I think it's Zig Ziglar, the speaker, and I'm not going to say it exactly the way he says it, but you can have everything you want when you start focusing on helping others get what they want.
Yeah.
And that's really where I live right now. It's every day, not how can I make money today? It's who can I serve today? Who can I be a resource for today? And it feels so much better. And I am happier than I've ever been in my entire life. I feel more connected, not just with myself, but with the people that I work with. I love what I do. Even if I won the lottery, I would still do what I'm doing. Now, I might do it differently. I might do more speaking engagements in Fiji, than other
Right.
places in the world. But I do. I truly feel just so grateful for all those lessons because I love where I stand today.
So why do you feel like you're happier now than ever? What do you believe is if you can narrow it down
Mhm.
to one thing, your life has what, Clara?
It has meaning. My
Hmm.
life has meaning beyond the dollar. I'm leaving behind a legacy. Every day, touching lives and knowing that if I can help one other person and help them unlock their brain in a different way, it's this idea of also living in alignment.
Yep.
And I think part of it comes with maturity. And part of it also, I think, comes in being strong enough and having the courage enough to listen to yourself and
Yeah.
to follow your internal compass. Because so many times, people, the world, society, there are so many avenues that are telling you you're wrong, that
Hmm.
no one's going to pay you for that there's no reason to do that, there's no place for you. There's so many other people that are doing what you do. There are so many reasons not to do something. We have to just listen to ourselves, which always has the one reason why we should. And that's because this is what we were created and made to do.
And I'll throw you another softball question, and then I'll have my own opinion to the answer. Why do you believe people are not even listening to themselves? They're
Fear.
not right.
Yeah. It's
And
fear.
and
It's completely fear.
I believe that they're not listening to themselves, or we're not listening to ourselves, is because we're not asking ourselves the right questions.
Yeah.
We're
I think
looking
that's
at
a
our
big part
phone.
of it. Is it's again, they get confused. They get, and I also think we get so caught up in the how. Like we have this dream, but then we go to, well, how am I going to make it happen? And the how is messy. It's
Mhm.
uncertain, it's unclear, and it's too much work. And so we just walk away from it because we don't know the how. And what we have to remember, and one of my very favorite sayings is the vision comes first, the how will find a way.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Mhm.
and it's no different than reading a book, asking somebody to marry you that you love and climbing a mountain. I mean, I want to climb a mountain. I don't know how. I know that's my vision. So you
Mhm.
learn how. And then
Yeah.
you realize you need to get in shape. You need to understand how to carry a lot of weight. You need to learn how to take care of yourself on the journey. And I don't believe that, and I'm not going to say it's a societal issue. I don't believe it. I don't even believe age is involved. I coach a lot of 20s to 60-year-old human beings, and they never have really been honest with themselves to ask themselves the right question, but yet they like to complain to everybody. And I'm not going to go there. I'm going to go back to when you were feeling empty, lost, disconnected. However, you were sitting on the 42nd floor, corporate attorney, making some good bank, but yet you didn't feel like your life had purpose, or it wasn't on the
Mhm.
journey of purpose than you had intended. So what was the moment? What was going on in that week or that month where you said, Clara, this shit stops now?
Yep. Well, it was February 12th of 2008. And I remember sitting there, and this is the story I tell a lot when I speak. I was sitting there with my son, who was about 3 at the time, and, I was doing work on my laptop, and he was sitting next to me, working on a drawing, playing his Legos and all of those things. And he came over to just show me a picture that he had drawn.
Mm,
And I basically dismissed him. I did the old, "Oh yeah, you know what? Mommy will look at that in a moment. Let me just finish what I'm doing here." And in that moment, my son saved me because he put his hand on my computer and said, "Mommy, you're not paying attention to me."
mm,
And in that moment, it's like the world came crashing in. And that's when you're absolutely right. I had to start getting honest with myself. I had to
beautiful.
start, because here was the one relationship that was the most important relationship to me. And I couldn't even give him my full attention for 5 seconds.
Well, hang
You
on a
know,
second.
that
Hang on a second. You could. You,
I, I
and
chose not to.
yes, and see,
Mhm,
that's the brilliance of being honest with ourselves and looking
mhm.
in the mirror, Clara Capono, and asking ourselves, what do we really want? No, oh,
Yep.
by the way, I'm assuming you created this little guy, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay, good. So you chose to have this little guy in your life. And isn't it ironic? That was so important. The 9 months leading up to it and all the other things that we all
Mm,
know happens when you create a child. And then we have them, and all of a sudden they're not important. Now,
yeah.
I'm not saying not all the time, but
Right.
look around in society today. And when you go out to lunch, mom's on her phone, dad's on his
Mhm.
phone, the kids are on their phone, but yet we want to spend time together. Now, no judgment. This is just what's going on. But
Absolutely.
and I'm so chilled and thrilled when I see families actually communicating in during restaurants.
Mhm.
But so you and I aren't so different. I was literally up at 18,000 feet up a mountain when I had that pivotal moment. I realized I have a pregnant wife and a newly adopted son at home, and I'm climbing a mountain in Argentina. Who does that? Well, it's someone that, like you, on the 42nd floor, I was arrogant. I was full of myself. I couldn't see or hear the best version of myself because I wasn't real.
Mhm.
And so God bless you for not only remembering the moment, but how old is your son now? If he was 3 at
He is,
20,
yeah, he's almost 19.
wow.
Mhm.
And what's his name?
His name is Nicholas.
Hey, Nicholas, this is Greg Aden from Denver, Colorado. I want to meet you someday. And I want you to know how many people's lives you changed in that moment. Because you basically said, Mom, get your head out of here. You know what? Love me like you said you were going to. And then I can grow up to be a good kid and I can demonstrate what being present is, active listening, and all the things that I'm sure you coach and teach and speak about. So, Nicholas, thank you.
Oh my God, you're gonna make me tear up with that. And I'll definitely have you meet Nicholas, because he does live not too far away from you.
Yeah, I love young people who are interested. They have some inquiry. They have some curiosity because that's when. And I don't know about you, but regardless of how many floors you were up when you were on the 42nd, but I believe at some point you were always asking your siblings and your parents and your friends and people you grew up with, why? Why do you
Mhm,
do that? How do you do that? Why is that important? Because
mhm.
if we're not honestly curious as kids, we don't ever learn.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
I love
that's
to still do that now, just having that genuine curiosity. And people are fascinating, and
yeah,
we learn so much from them. And I love to ask questions. And I think a lot of this journey has brought me back to a little bit of that child that is inside of me again, and bringing out that genuine curiosity and playfulness and being present and
yeah,
silliness and all of that good stuff.
yeah. There's a lot of time to be serious, and there are times where and I won't say exactly what I say to Brooks, but hey, I've really enjoyed playing with you. I've really enjoyed boxing. I've really enjoyed playing ping pong, etc. And it's now 5. I told you we're going to stop around 5, and I'm going to go do my thing, and you
Mhm.
do your thing. Now,
Exactly.
they understand it.
They
You
do.
just you have to let them know what to expect and then create agreements. And I'm not going to go into
No, but I
expectations.
love that you say that. But I think we shouldn't brush over that, because again, I started doing that with Nicholas when he was maybe, 7, 8 years old, because when they're 3, it's not as easy to do that. But
Right.
sharing my weekly schedules, and again, sharing, okay, well, let's go to the park and I will be there with you. But then At 3:45, we need to be home. I remember at night doing homework. I would set him up and I would sit right next to him and do my homework. And I would
Hmm.
say, okay, we're both going to do homework for 20 minutes. Then we'll take a little bit of a break. And it's like when you talk with them like a human, and
Thank
not
you.
about setting adult expectations because they're not adults yet. But
Nope.
again, doing these things with them and communicating with them, it's so important.
Yeah, and you are setting him up for success.
Mhm.
And by treating him like a kid or not believing they can have these conversations at 9, 10, 12 years old, we're just being foolish.
Yep.
And
That's
in fact, we are as parents the most important influencers in their life. Oh
mhm.
yeah, Greg, they spend a lot of more time at school. They do, but how much of that relationship with teachers included is it real? And some of it is, and some of it's just important, and some of it's called social media and pressure to be included. And we won't get into that today. But
Mhm.
so, give us an example of an organization, a group, an individual where you were seeing this as an opportunity to serve, to help, to get empower them, to help bring them more clarity, which is what you're known for. By the way, you got to give it up to yourself. I mean, clarity, and it sounds cheesy, but you know what? It's easy to remember, and
Yes.
who in the heck doesn't want to have more clarity in their life, Clara?
Oh, yeah, it's so true.
Right.
I was,
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough just 2 weeks ago to speak at a conference in just outside of Providence, Rhode Island, and in the audience were 70 small business owners, female small business owners, and there were two men in the audience, and to have all of them be able to connect, and even after the talk, it was the man that came up to me with almost tears in his eyes,
Hmm.
saying how even though he was one of the only men in the room, my message still connected with him. And that's what drives me to do that is, to know that we aren't so different and we're all fighting these battles, even though they're different because we're all different in our own ways. It's the same battle.
It
And
is.
we're really more connected than we think we are.
Well, a heart is a heart, and
Hmm.
men are human beings, women are human beings, and you mentioned social worker. By the way, 3 years, May 14th, I will have been married to the most beautiful, wonderful woman I have ever met. And that's she has made her life and continues to make her life in social work. But she does it by providing affordable housing in the city of Lakewood. And she's just fantastic at it. But she's always had a servant heart. And she knew it from the very, very beginning. And if you don't think she hasn't helped me become more humble and more empathetic, and as certified as I am to help people as a leadership coach, I mean, there was a lot of stuff. Then I still realized, you know what, if I process that a little differently, I might come across a little bit better and we may seek better agreements. And
Hmm.
so, Tammy, if you're listening, again, thank you for your loving patience with me. Um, again, I would love to hear an example of some deep work that you do, and if people are listening as to why Clara Capona might be important to them in their life outside of your book and your speaking opportunities, do you take on individual clients? Do you do facilitation? Tell us a little bit about what you love other than writing and speaking.
Oh, you're so awesome. Thanks for asking that. So I do a lot of speaking and a lot of work in-person workshops. So for companies that are really looking to level up in the areas of mindset, leadership, and productivity, those are my three circles of genius. I really love talking about mindset because mindset really is the key
Yeah.
to everything. It is the only thing we can control. And we've got to start to really pay attention to the mindset that we have and how we go into each and every day. I'm very passionate about leadership. I have my master's in organizational leadership because I think leaders have the ability to do what my teachers did for me, Mr. Hicks and Mr. Carson, and the power of taking care of our team.
Yeah.
So many people are focused on the bottom line, on the shareholders. What we need to realize is when we invest in our teams will then take care of the customers take care of the bottom line, and that will take care of the shareholders.
Yep.
And I think leaders have such a powerful position to really be able to change the game. And then productivity, so many of us are living being busy, but we're not being productive. And
Amen.
so helping people learn how to take control back of their time and also look at time as an investment. Just like with a dollar, we have to look at each minute. Are we investing it in the right areas? I do also work with people one on one. I have a couple do it yourself programs and some hybrid ones where you can work on putting your success plan together and then work with me one on one to help guide you through it, hold you accountable to it, and some of those items. So I really love to do a big host of all of those things because, again, I just want to be able to help people. I saw a way out for myself. So I want to pay it forward. And I just see so many people struggling. They're doing the ideal of if you were in a boat and you had a leak, we start bailing the water out, but the water keeps seeping in. Let's
Yeah.
fix the hole.
Right.
And that's what I really want to do is help people fix the hole so that they can sail, even though they might be a little damp, even though they might be a little wet and have water all over them, they're going to get there in a safer way, in a faster way, in a more purposeful and productive way.
Yeah, you said something that resonates with me. I've been coaching individuals and doing facilitation for just going on my 11th year, and I look at leaders, and you said the word power, the power of taking care of the team, and I believe that, but I also see it as a privilege and an honor. It's not a requirement. You don't have to, and I say this a lot, Claire, and I said this just 25 minutes ago to a group of general managers in the East Coast. You don't have to lead. You get to lead.
Hmm.
You don't have to be a parent. You get to be a parent. And when you look at it as it's an honor and a privilege to take care of another human being, and I don't mean wrapped in swaddling clothes. I mean they're on your team.
Hmm.
Serve them, love them, teach them, and then acknowledge how did I do? And this is
Hmm.
a question that I ask leaders to ask all the time. How may I serve you today? How may I be a better leader today? And again, back to the 3-year-old and the 9-year-old. If we're not authentically curious, then what else could we possibly not what else could we possibly be missing?
Right.
But we tell people what to do as leaders, and by the way, that's a manager. But when you ask somebody, are we on the right page? Are we in alignment? Okay, Claire, do you and I have an agreement that this is how the first chapter of the book's going to be written, and this is my role, and this is your role?
Mhm.
Yes. That takes so much less stress to have a conversation like that. And in my humble opinion, it saves time, it
Yep.
saves money, and it saves energy. And by the way, what relationships don't want to be easier? And by the way, you said it, not me, but the shareholders, the people who are paying for everything. If they think you're hiring a leadership coach that's only going to be patronizing, well, no, we're saving you time, money, and energy, Mr. or Mrs. Shareholder, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's
One of the things that we always say in the Leadership Academy that I do some facilitation for is, and you hit it on the head, there's a difference between a manager and a leader. A manager manages tasks,
yeah.
but a leader, really clarifies the path to the future. They build people by inspiring, empowering. And some of the best leaders that I've had have been the ones that believed in me and again, believed in the value that I bring. And they wanted to cultivate that even more. And
Mhm.
that's really what, great leaders do is they help cultivate and bring the best out of their team.
It's funny, you just did a beautiful correlation between a parent and what you said earlier about Nicholas. You saw something in him and you said, Son, you can do this. And
Mhm.
in fact, I'm going to work right next to you so you can see me doing the same thing. You believed in him and you saw the potential. And that's what leaders that really care do. They get out of their chair and walk around. And there's this distinction that I've created, and some of my clients love it. It's called being approachable, which is an adjective, or being approaching. And if
Mhm.
you're approaching someone, it's actually a verb. You're doing something. But if you just say, "Hey, my door's open. Come on in when you need me," not a lot of people are going to take you up on that unless there's a really a high level of trust. But
Right.
um, when you say mindset, you said it's really the only thing we can control. I believe that was your quote.
Yes.
Tell us more about control, and tell us more about the beauty of understanding what mindset truly means to our potential.
Right. So, so many of us try to control as much as we can, but the reality is I can't control the weather. I can't control the economy. I can't even control if I reach out to someone and they pick up the phone.
Right.
It Only thing I can control are the thoughts that I have. And when I choose to come from a place of abundance versus scarcity, though that mindset, that energy that we create from our mindset starts to permeate and have a ripple
Mm.
effect into our ability to then focus. And then our focus will deliver the actions and the results. So it all stems from our mindset. And, the idea is we get whatever we create, whatever
Yeah.
our mindset creates. If I wake up today and say, today's going to be a really difficult day, I'm going to find reasons that it's a difficult day. Where if I
Amen.
sit down and say, you know what, today's going to have opportunities, I'm going to be able to go from there. So again, I think it's, that whole mindset, it goes back to it's about controlling the thoughts, which then control our energy, leading us to control our focus, and then ultimately control the results.
Yeah, there's a brilliant man out there that has coached and led and created great coaches across the country. Steve Chandler would always say, it's not about scarcity, it's about abundance. And Todd Musselman, a dear friend of mine that lives up in Steamboat, Todd, if you're listening, he would always remind us that. And there's also you're walking us right into something I want to end up with, and it is a mindset. But I'm going to put a label on it. You can either own your actions, you can own your thoughts, or
Mhm.
you can become a victim.
Right.
And when something happens to us or something's going to happen and we immediately go into, I'm going to hide under the desk, I'm a victim, please don't find me, or are we going to stand up tall and own it? Because you might be the reason the person's complaining. You might be the reason profits are down or the relationship sucks. So, um, what's your familiarity with the owner victim model, and how might have you used it, or how have you become
Sure.
aware of it?
It's reminding me of what you even said earlier about you have to be honest with yourself. And
Hmm.
and this is again where I see it. And I have been on both sides of it. And it's human nature to feel the overwhelm and to just want to hide and run away. That's because that's safe. Because again,
Yeah.
we don't have to take personal responsibility and then we don't have to do anything. And I know at certain times in my career, when I'm working to accomplish something new, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it's easy to sit here and look at my bank account. And I've had moments where in building my business, the money wasn't coming in. And I could sit there and complain. Oh, why don't people want to work with me? They don't know anything. They're just being cheap, all of these things. But you know what? The only antidote is to get up and do the work.
Amen.
And what's going to get me up to do the work is remembering the value that I'm bringing.
Yeah.
And so, again, you can sit there and wallow in it, but that's not going to change the result.
Yeah.
If you want to truly change the result, you have to take ownership. And this is why when I walk people through their business planning and their success planning, a big part of it is really looking at what's working and what's not working. Because when things are not working, we have some questions to ask.
Yep.
Why isn't it working? Isn't working because I'm not doing it? Do I not have a system for it? Do I not understand it? So we again have to come back and have that true open honesty with ourselves,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, we are the only ones that can change it.
Yeah. And you remind me of something that I believe a lot of leaders don't do. I believe men and women don't do, especially in tough relationships. They don't raise their hand and ask for help.
Mhm.
It's okay. We aren't
Yep.
expected to know everything.
And that's a big lesson that too many of us don't learn in time. And I know, especially in some of those moments before I had my awakening moment with Nicholas, I was there. After Nicholas was born, I had taken on a new role. I was fighting postpartum depression. I, was seeing everything crumble. But because of my thought process of I have to be successful, I never thought there could be safety in asking for help, because to me, that was a sign of weakness. And if I
Mm.
asked for help, people wouldn't think they could trust me and count on me. And it wasn't until after going through this that I realized that is success, that is strength.
Yeah.
And knowing that we have to be vulnerable to grow our strength.
Well, and again, I'm not going to change your language. I'm just going to remind people they have a choice. You don't have to be vulnerable. You get to be vulnerable. And by the way, ask Brene Brown what vulnerability and courage means and has meant to her life, and she's changed millions of people's
Millions.
ways of thinking about it. And I don't believe we need to be intimate with everybody, but I believe when you make your thinking visible and you say, here's what I'm thinking, what do you believe? What do you believe is true? And then you give them an opportunity to say, wait a minute, I think Greg Aden's asking for help. And they may not say it to you like, aha, you're asking for help. They're going to know, they're going to see a man who's just asked you for help, maybe without saying the words, but
Mhm.
then go ahead and say, I'm not sure what to do, team. What should we do? And
Yeah.
that's where people say, wow, here's a human being that wants our help, doesn't need our help. Clara, what an honor, what a privilege to, and let's give a shout out to Chad Jameson,
Definitely.
who produces both of our shows. And Chad,
Mhm.
thank you for putting this beautiful human being in front of me. And I just
Likewise.
feel a lot of people have gotten what you're trying to share with them, not tell them, but share with them, so they can become better human beings. And thank you for doing what you do. You know, I bring a lot of people on my show who do exactly what I do, and people say, "Well, isn't that competition?" No, it's called collaboration.
Absolutely.
And I've collaborated with some of the more brilliant people in this space, and it pays it for itself over and over and
Every
over.
time. Every time. And there is so much abundance out there again to bring that word back.
Absolutely.
There's enough for all of us to be able to serve. And I love collaborations. And it has been just amazing connecting with you. And I'm so grateful for that. And grateful that you brought me on the show. What a wonderful conversation we've had.
Yeah, it's been fun. I hope everyone that has been listening to this will take a nugget or two away and apply it to your life wherever it fits. Whether I said it or Clara said it, or you just thought of it when you heard the conversation. And that's the true purpose of this servant leadership podcast. So with that, Clara Capano, go out and continue to serve people and help people find clarity. And I look forward to seeing you on the other side.
Thanks, Greg.
All righty, have a great day.
You too.